Hey everyone, I'm Tiffany Staman.
Hi, I'm Cam Staman. We're here at Calvin Crest in the Craft Condo, so the area may look familiar to you.
And we're here today to just share a few ideas with you that we learned over the years when we were raising our own kids. We were really fortunate to have some amazing mentors who spoke into our life and helped us create intentional ways of developing our family's culture and to help foster the spiritual development of our kids. I think it's super easy to abdicate this task to the church or to youth groups or to other groups. And what we learned is that it's our greatest calling on earth to invest in the lives of our kids and to help them develop spiritually. And we learned pretty quickly that if we didn't take advantage of every ordinary day, that time would pass, and before we knew it, opportunities would slip away. So we're going to just share a few ideas with you. Hopefully maybe even just one or two ideas may resonate with you and your family of things that we did with our kids when they were growing up. And again, we can't take any credit for these because most of them we learned from our mentors. The first thing that we did was together we created a family mission statement. If you've ever read Patrick Lencioni, he talks a lot about how we do this in our businesses, our churches, our organizations, but we often fail to do it in the most important organization in our life, which is our families. And if we ran our organizations and our churches the way many of us run our families, they would fail. And so Patrick Lencioni talks about how important it is to create a mission statement and a vision and values for your family, just like you would for any other organization. So together, we sat down with our kids when they were very young and said to them, what's important to us, the five of us, in our family's culture? And we came up with a list of things like it's really important how we talk about one another to people outside our family. We want to talk kindly about each other. We want to respect each other's space and stuff. We want to open up our home to strangers and people, like hospitably. We want to worship together. And so we had this list of values that would define our family's culture. And then we printed out that list, and each person in our family, from the youngest to the oldest, signed their name to that. And then every time a value was violated, we could go back to that as our foundational mission statement and say, now wait a minute, this behavior isn't aligning with our family's mission statement and with our family's values. And it just became a great foundational document for our family.
Yeah, and a lot of times that was us reinforcing those, but sometimes our kids would come to us and say, hey, wait a minute, that was...
Our kids would come and say, hey, we heard you talking to your friends about us, and it didn't feel like it was really honoring. And so that document really helped shape the values and the culture of our family.
Yeah, the second one is that we really established, once our kids got a little bit older, we established a weekly family meeting. Mm-hmm. And seems a little bit, I don't know, there's been jokes made about it in movies of having a family meeting, but we found it to be very valuable. Instead of waiting to talk about things as they happened or in retrospect, we were able to proactively get ahead of whatever the issues are. So we would talk about what events are coming up for the week, what stressors people are feeling, where they need prayer requests. It was really a good way for everybody to be able to expand what they were focused on for the week. And so you might realize, for us as parents, we realized our kids are stressed about different things, whether it's a test or a relationship. And it also helped our kids to understand that their parents also have things that they're worried about as well. So it worked out really good. And at some point it felt like things switched and our kids began initiating, reminding us like, hey, it's Sunday, we need to have a family meeting so we can kind of help prepare for the week and pray for each other. And it just was really good practice for us.
Mm-hmm. And in addition to those weekly family meetings, our kids would also sometimes say, hey, can I call a family meeting?
That's
and
true.
So they would initiate it for special reasons that was even outside of our regular Sunday night family meeting. For us, Sunday nights worked great because it was the start of a new week and we were all getting on the same page.
And it was really a good place to be able to talk about things. So for instance, somebody might be getting frustrated with a sibling who's leaving a towel on the bathroom floor. So instead of letting that blow up at some point, once we have once a week meetings, the environment is set so that somebody can raise that and just say, hey, I'm a little frustrated about this. Could we work on this? So.
And in a way, that was great leadership training for them.
That's right.
And in essence, we were having a family leadership meeting every once a week, and it also opened up safe spaces for them to learn how to navigate conflict in healthy ways. So a lot of conflict got navigated really in good ways during those.
Yeah.
The third thing that we did was we created what we called a victory journal. And it was a little notebook, and that little notebook started to keep track of all of the small victories that family members experienced. So whether it was, hey, I aced a science test that I was really nervous about, or God provided for us in this way, or I worked out a conflict with a friend, whatever that was, we often did this at dinner or after dinner, and each family member would just share and write down in the victory journal things that had happened, how they had experienced God in that day or that week. And we have friends that said when their children were adults and they came home, they actually, when they started bringing home their future spouses, that was the first thing they did, was they went to that cabinet and took out the whole shoebox full of victory journals and wanted to share that with their significant others. So it's become a real meaningful way of tracking God's goodness in our family.
Yeah, I definitely think that one of the byproducts that's so great about that is being able to reflect back and look and see kind of what happened and what you were processing at that time.
And it cultivates gratitude in your kids, and it reminds them to constantly be looking for how God's at work.
Yeah, the next thing that we would put on the list that's been significant for our family is we call it the woohoo, and we started some time ago when our kids were little of doing a woohoo. In essence, it's really just celebrating events for others in the family. And it has really been, in my opinion, one of the strongest things that we have done as a family. We really started when the kids were really little. And the way that it works, we established our own rhythm. You might establish a rhythm that's different for you. What we do is anybody can nominate somebody for a woohoo. And it might sound something like this. One sibling might say, I nominate my brother for a woohoo for placing third in gymnastics after lots of hard work, and we're doing such a great job. We're so proud of him. And then in our family, what we do is we say, and I nominate this woohoo to take place on the count of 5. And we pick a number that's connected, like maybe he did 5 tumbling passes. So we do it on a number and we count up. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it just keeps getting louder and louder and building. And we set the stage with our family early on that says, this is a critical part of our family, and our expectations are that you will cheer really with full vigor. I don't know how else to say it, but like it would be considered a very bad thing if you did not engage fully. And so we count up, we build it up, and then we cheer and we just
scream,
kind of go
clap.
nuts. If we can afford to be loud, we'll be loud, we'll cheer. And it's not just a woohoo, it's woo, like you're cheering. The example we use is your team has just scored a touchdown or won the game, whatever it is. Like that's the type of cheering we want. Now sometimes we do this in restaurants, so we can't be quite as loud, but we will qualify the woohoo by saying, this will be as loud as we can normally do it comfortably in this restaurant. But everybody's expected to participate well. And that has been a thing that has like carried on through. And now we're actually using it at camp. We had a friend who, I was talking about the woohoo, and he was a principal at a school. He had the entire school do it for a student for something at an assembly. And what you see when you do this is one of two effects. The person just can't stop smiling because they just are so filled up inside. Or sometimes we actually see people cry because they're just overwhelmed with how amazing it feels to have others cheer for them. So I know that was kind of a long explanation. I feel super passionate about it. We've done it for birthdays, for really any event, and we have set it up so that anybody in the family can nominate somebody else. And the more the parents do it, then the children actually the kids start to get involved in nominating on their own, and it's a great way for them to learn how to initiate to celebrate others.
Even people that feel awkward or don't like to be the center of attention are usually overcome with how honoring it feels to be celebrated. And you realize that at our core, all of us want to feel celebrated, and we just don't always do a good job of this in our lives. And so it's a way to intentionally celebrate one another.
Yeah, for sure.
The next thing that we worked really hard at is teaching our children about financial responsibility. We learned early on that Jesus talked more about money in the Gospels than any other subject, and we wanted to teach our kids from a very young age that no one receives money for doing nothing. So there's always this work hard and then earn money, and that hard work pays off. And so we used a great curriculum with our kids called Raising Financially Freed Up Kids by Dick Towner, who happens to be one of our mentors. And we can't recommend it enough. Again, it's Raising Financially Freed Up Kids. And we taught our kids that there's some chores that you do just because you're part of a family. Other chores, if done well, will be compensated. And then we help them develop a budget. And so from a very young age, our kids earned money for doing chores, and then we helped them develop a budget where they learned how to save, they learned how to give, they learned how to spend, and they, from a very young age, were in charge of getting their friends birthday gifts. Anytime they wanted extra snacks in the grocery store line, that was their spend money. From the time they decided they wanted to get phones, they paid for their phones, they paid for their phone bills. So a lot of people feel like that's a little over the edge, it's kind of hardcore, but it was very important to us that our kids learn the value of money and learn the importance of earning money in order to pay for the things that they wanted. And we learned, our kids were very young when we first started this, and we took them to McDonald's back in the days when we still ate at McDonald's, and we bought our kids dinner, and our middle son said, hey, can I get a McFlurry? And we said, well, Mom and Dad are just buying dinner tonight. If you want to use your spend money to buy a McFlurry, you can. And he looked at us dumbfounded and said, well, if I spend my money on a McFlurry, then my money is gone as soon as I've had the McFlurry. And we were like, ding, 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 ding. Like, now they were starting to get it. And so all three of them learned very young how to handle money, and now they're all on their own doing a great job navigating financial responsibility.
Yeah, I think the guideline for that that we read was initially $1 per year that the kid is. So if the kid's 5 years old, $5
a week
per week, which for someone who doesn't like to spend money and is concerned about that, that felt like, holy cow, that's a lot. You know, when you have 3 teenagers, you're shelling out a good chunk of money per week. The way that I was able to reconcile that was, if we didn't do that, then we were having to help fund all of their, when they go to a friend's birthday party, they have to come up with a $20 gift or whatever the amount is. They don't have gifts for holidays. They want to have spend money when they go out. And what we did is, basically, we shifted that money from us just giving them the money, and realized if we give them this money every week, then now they're in charge for figuring out, well, this is a good friend, I want to spend a little bit more money than just an acquaintance that I have to spend money on that I was invited to a party. So the idea is, it's not that you're just giving them tons of money to go spend it on whatever they want to spend it on, although they do have that option. You're really giving them money for the things that we would be helping to support. Yeah. So next one would be exposing our kids to service projects, and we tried to do that as early as our kids were able to. I do remember we ran into some difficulties with some of the service projects are not suitable for all ages. So we sometimes would try to go to like a homeless shelter, and they would say, well, your kids are too young. So we did have to be a little bit creative with that, but really throughout their childhood and into adulthood, we always looked for ways to be able to get involved in service projects. And they're out there, you just have to look for them. The advantage of that is that really helps expose them to people who are in different phases or experiences of life than them, and helps them also to get in others' minded or a mindset so that they understand the world exists beyond what their immediate needs are, and that other people have experienced a different experience coming up through life. It's real critical, especially in the light of what our country is facing right now, that we do everything we can to help us understand other people's experiences in life. I remember our daughter Taylor, when she was in, I think, junior high, really took hold of this and started a project where she raised over $2,000 for women in third world countries. Yeah, so really cool and really successful for her. That's a good chunk of money for a junior high kid to be able to raise. So this has impacted them to broaden their world as adults now.
Finally, the last thing is that we would say that was hugely beneficial for our kids and for us is that we kept our marriage a priority. We tried to make it a priority to have a date night every weekend. And I think we put multiple high schoolers through college by paying for babysitters. We would go without other things so that we could go out on a date night. Sometimes all we could afford was the babysitter, and we did free things like take a walk or go to Barnes and Nobles and sit and read or do stuff like that. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be expensive date nights. But what Cam and I found is that by keeping a designated time every weekend where we were connecting, it kept our marriage so strong throughout those really difficult years of parenting 3 kids. And we looked forward to it, and our kids actually looked forward to it, and they learned that this was a really great thing for mom and dad to connect every weekend. And now that our kids are grown and we're almost empty nesters, we point to those date nights as to what kept us so deeply connected that now, after almost 30 years, we're more in love than ever. And now we get to have a lot more date nights we don't have to pay babysitters. But I would encourage you, as much as it is possible for you financially and physically, to get out and even if it's for a short time and to do something free, to get time where you're not talking about the kids, you're not talking about whatever, you're just focusing on one another and connecting and saying, hey, how's your soul? How are you doing? How's your week been? How can I support you better? And that was a real key thing for us.
Yeah, I think it's really easy, as those who have been married a while can relate to. It's very easy to get consumed with life and work and with kids, and for things to transition into more of a roommate situation if you're not careful. So you really have, this is part of investing in your marriage and also investing in your kids. As Tiffany mentioned, I feel like we've set the stage for our kids to understand what to expect in a relationship with their spouse. And even now, we have a daughter who's staying with us over the summer, and we'll say, we're going for a walk, and she'll say, well, is this a mom and dad time, or can I go? And really, we have to choose sometimes. Sometimes we have to say, well, this is really mom and dad time, just because we need to make sure that we're staying connected. And other times, then she'll come with us. But really a key part of our marriage.
You may have noticed that we haven't talked about really key things like going to church as a family and praying together or reading the Bible. And of course we did those things with our children. But spiritual life encompasses all of life, including honoring God with our words, celebrating each other, honoring God with our money, our gratitude, our service. And so hopefully 1 or 2 of these ideas that are outside of your normal, typical read your Bible and pray and go to church together, hopefully maybe 1 or 2 of these ideas resonate with you and your family. And we would just say, we just pray for blessings on your family during this time in which it is not easy. These are not easy days to navigate raising a family. And so our prayers are with you. We support you. We want Calvin Crest to be a place that supports and empowers and helps your family grow amazing culture and spiritually develops your children. So blessings on you, and we look forward to seeing you here at Calvin Crest soon.
Thanks.